The Louvre got robbed. Did it go down like it does in the movies? No, because real life is way better. This shit went down in broad daylight. I'm talking about 9:30 a.m. French jewel thieves have a better work-life balance than us. And, that's 100% right. Hello. My name is Tony Chinqui.
And I'm Frances Mei Harden.
And welcome to Social Rounds, the podcast in which two of the happiest surgeon dropouts you'll ever meet give our unsolicited opinions on the states of medicine, the world at large, pop culture, and whatever else we happen to find interesting. And guys, the date is October 31st, which means this is going to be the spookiest social rounds of the year, and I can't wait. Happy Halloween to those who celebrate. Frances Mei,
Ooh.
It's spooky season. Do you commemorate this time of year, or are you just do you just ride it out?
At our old house, we had trick-or-treaters, which was super fun.
Oh, that's nice.
Sadly, we don't live that life anymore, and we wish we actually got trick-or-treaters. Sometimes we put like a Halloween sweater on beignet. That's about the extent of it. How about you guys?
How hard it goes. Yeah, I mean, we got like two little kids now. One of whom is 4, so she like knows it's Halloween, right? And the other one's 1, so we just like dress him up in something easy and just drag him around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never been one to like decorate for Halloween. We take him around. We have a nice little neighborhood now. We can go around, get candy with kids and all that shit. But growing up, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I was in a neighborhood called East Flatbush. And we didn't have a lot of kids around. And also, in general, Halloween was less a joyful dress up holiday and more a holiday to like get home as quickly as you could, because like people would just like destroy stuff.
Oh.
As a Halloween celebration, like I don't know, maybe the city's better now, but like, people are like egging buses as they're driving by, like, because that's, in theory funny, but also in theory could kill a whole bunch of people. And, like, it's just like lots of like hooliganism. And so I wasn't like big on it. I didn't really honestly get big on Halloween until medical school, where, I was in Atlanta. I was 24, life didn't have consequences. We would just, we would finish a test and then it's Halloween. So we'd have a big party and just get really, absurd in the streets. So that was like really the only time I really got into it.
That's amazing. I was really into it as a kid. I will say, hard to ever top. When I was like 8 years old, I went trick-or-treating in my little suburb of Chicago. I was dressed as a witch, had like a 3-foot tall, pointy hat, just little cape, regular witch costume. And I brought my cat. She was a Persian, all-white cat.
You were holding the cat out in the street?
Yep, that's right. I did not have a ton of friends, I believe I've mentioned. So it wasn't like I was rolling deep with a crew, but I did have my cat that year.
So you went trick-or-treating by yourself holding a cat because of loneliness. Okay. How'd it go though?
Yeah, I think okay.
Yeah, you cashed in. That's good. I mean, I don't know how you held a cat for that long. Like you don't put them on leashes. Like it's just, they want to go places and do stuff, right?
Yeah, I feel like the evening wasn't like that long. It was just, but it was an interesting gimmick, maybe at the time to me.
Well, speaking of witches, I have a surprise for you that I pulled out just for Halloween. I have my Halloween hat, which is an excellent, I think, witch's hat, which fits me just as well as it fits my daughter. We're a family of very large-headed people. So I can fit her hats and she can fit mine. We look like a bunch of like, lollipops walking down the street. But I'm going to go ahead and get festive because it's Halloween. And you're not the only witch anymore, Frances Mei. You got witch family now. And we got to stick together. Okay. Well, spooky listeners, we're going to get into it. Okay. we're going to, of course, head into our usual first segment, which is news, in which we give our rapid fire takes on recent inside baseball medical news, outside baseball news in the world of medicine, and, whatever else we think is cool. And today, on Halloween inside baseball news, we talk about when things go bump in the night, but hopefully you don't hear it because you're asleep. So we're talking about sleep. So we've been told since forever that everybody needs 8 hours of sleep a night, right? Your body needs that time to rest and recharge, repair damage, remove toxins, do brain stuff like consolidating memories, which I always thought was super cool, et cetera, et cetera. And if you don't get enough sleep, your body doesn't do enough of those important things, and it can have well-documented ill effects on your health. So the universal recommendation, as far as I can ever remember, has been to sleep for 8 hours a night, aka spend 1/3 of your life asleep. But the question of importance to folks in medicine and any other sleep deprivation heavy lifestyles is like, hey, like, is that true? Like, do we really need that? And it turns out the answer is not everybody needs it. Most people do, but not everybody. So, over the last few years, sleep scientists have identified a new breed of sleeping human that they've dubbed short sleepers. And these are folks who have hereditary genetic mutations that make it so that they actually only need 4 to 6 hours of sleep every night. And in that time, their brains and bodies do all the restorative things that they need to do, but they just do it more efficiently. So they have all these like genetic mutations that they identified. It's pretty wild. And so these folks, after like 4 hours of sleep, wake up bright eyed and bushy tailed and ready to greet the darkness of 3 a.m. And like I said, this is genetic. So there are like whole families like this, which to me sounds like a complete nightmare, but they exist. So Frances Mei, I read this story and it got me thinking about nature versus nurture, right? Like here we have evidence of these genetic freak shows who happily get 4 hours of sleep a night their whole lives and function, you know, out in the world without a care. But is it possible for those of us who have been chronically sleep deprived to train ourselves to be happy, jolly short sleepers? Or like, are we kind of kidding ourselves and we're killing our bodies slowly over time? I worry about that because after residency, I never quite slept normally again. And I don't know if that was the case for you.
Yeah, I think that that's very interesting. I'm worried that it's the latter. I certainly come from the background of an 8-hour a night sleeper. I never do well when it's less. I did not do well in residency functioning on, way less sleep. But I totally agree with you that even after residency, my sleep never returned to like I was a phenomenal sleeper pre-residency.
Just
And
epic sleeper. I was never a great sleeper,
yeah, I was great.
but man, like I would never like take naps in the day and whatever. Like I always found it really difficult. But then when I started residency, like I was like dropping dead of naps like all the time. And now after residency, I can nap at least.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested to hear how maybe like parenthood impacts that because I will say, even as an attending, yes, I was on call a lot, but I really like set 8, 9 hour parameters on, yeah, like my time in bed. And, I think they knew I'd be too powerful if I could get by on 4 hours of sleep. I would just be up all night working. And I know people who have been this type of a sleeper, and I just feel like they're so lucky. What's interesting is they never seem that happy about it. They kind of like, seriously, the people that I know who are like that, I'm like, "Wow, that's amazing," and they're like, "It's okay, it's boring, I just, like, read more books
It's just
in the
like
middle
more
of the night."
time. Yeah, it's just like they're awake in the lonely hours, it
Yeah,
sounds
that's
like.
true. That's true.
Yeah, because even if you like, I don't know, I was just having nightmares of what if one of my kids was like this, or like, we try to get these kids to sleep, and it's just no matter what you try, they're waking up at 2 or waking up at 3. And what are you supposed to do? I don't know. So and there are like, lots of folks, I think more folks than we'd believe who can get by with like many fewer hours of sleep. I would say like for me, I don't know, man, like since residency, I was never able to sleep for a very long time. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Whoa.
Like I tried to like get back into 8 hours of sleep and I can't do it. And this is before kids. Like I wouldn't be able to do it. And I just kind of have learned, like many of us, learn to function with less sleep. I found out in residency that I uh, happen to be one of the types of folks who, even on very little sleep, could be like very nice to people, which I know many of my colleagues found quite difficult. Um, but that was nice to know because it has translated to my life of parenting small children, where I'll be woken up at all hours. I'll never get like a full night of sleep, but I can like try reasonably hard not to be angry at the children because they don't deserve that. But I don't know. Were you an angry sleep deprivation case?
Internally very angry and externally not. Like, I did really try to make a huge effort, and I think I succeeded. Like, if people called
It's
me
not
in the
easy,
middle of the
guys.
night, yeah, it isn't easy, but I do think that, well, number 1, I think that my little elephant's memory helps me to have some perspective and compassion. Like, I remember how much it sucks calling people in the middle of the night, right? Like, I remember doing my ED shifts and calling like a consultant. And you're never I was never like gleeful about it, and I always felt bad to wake them up. So like assuming that somebody's bringing that energy to the phone, which has been my experience most of the time, I would just really be like, "Oh, hi, it's Hardin. What's going on?" But again, it does take a toll somewhere because yes, I did not lash out like this person is not calling me to like ruin my life in the middle of the night, but I do feel like my anger at the situation, my anger at the fact that I worked a job where people could call me in the middle of the night, that's a deep-seated anger, that I dealt with internally and that made me act out in other ways.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's guys, it's really hard to not let your sleep deprivation frustrations bubble over onto the people who it's their job to like call you and bring you in. Like I had some colleagues who would get fucking furious at like nurses who would call them in the middle of the night, just
Yeah.
not just because they were calling them, but like say it's like a young nurse who has a lot of questions, and they know that they feel bad for calling you.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to do it, but you got to take care of the patient. And then this guy would just bite her head off, and we had to teach him how to maybe do that a little bit less. But it's just you got to do your best, know that everyone around you is doing their best in the middle of the night. But, we understand if you're one of those people that needs more sleep, you know, that you're operating at like 8% of your brain power at that time. And you get a little grace from me. That's why I would never like be super pissed at this other guy. I would be like, all right, like he's clearly doing his best. He probably doesn't even know where he is. And it's tough out there. It's tough out there. And I think that, as far as the earlier question, like we can never teach ourselves to be completely okay with less sleep if our bodies actually need more sleep. A lot of us just make do. But man, if you're one of those 4-hour sleepers, maybe you can find a profession that keeps you less lonely. I don't know. Or maybe you're just like one of those hermit crabs that's just like, man, every morning it's just me and like the owls, if you're lucky, just kind of hanging out. And maybe you find peace there. I don't know, but that's our inside baseball news. I just thought it would be cool to kind of bring that up, because let's poke some holes in these
Yeah.
old facts. Let's see if they really hold up.
Love
Anyway,
it.
now we have the outside baseball news, and this is the news, guy. Like the news that's going on right now, even as this podcast airs a couple weeks after this happened. So, in keeping with our Halloween theme, we're talking about masked hijinks. And there are no more fantastical and incredible masked hijinks going on right now than the robbery at the Louvre. For those who don't know, the Louvre is a museum and it's very famous, and it's in Paris, France. Frances May, were you there? Did you go there when you're traveling?
Yeah, I was just there like 3 weeks ago, which I did love the content. The only good thing about social media is that we have like people, doing little dances outside the Louvre, and they're like, us at the Louvre when it got robbed this morning. And like in the background, you can actually, I'm not going to spoil the story, but it's like going down in the background and people are like doing a jig up front in front of the phone.
Listen, yeah, okay, so let's tell the story because this is fantastic. So the Louvre got robbed, okay? And here's the story. So first of all, did it go down like it does in the movies with like you got like a guy in the van who's like unlocking the doors with his computer, and you got like slick thieves with like Mission Impossible masks like descending from the ceiling on cables in sexy black outfits? No, because real life is way better. So this shit went down in broad daylight. I'm talking about 9:30 a.m. Shortly after the museum opens to the public, four thieves dressed as construction workers, because they're smart, climb a cherry pickers, one of those like mini trucks with a big ladder on top, and then set it up next to one of the Louvre's many balconies. So they climb that shit, and then they just bust a window open and enter the museum. So they go inside, they bust up some more glass and just grab a bunch of like incalculably valuable jewels, many of which belong to, Napoleon and his family. And then they climb back down the ladder, they hop on a couple scooters, and they just left. And as of this recording, I can guarantee that they're still at large, baby. And I love it. And just a little bit of history in case you think this never happens. Fun fact is, it totally does. Like, people fucking love to rob this museum. So the Mona Lisa was actually stolen back in 1911 by a guy who wanted to return it to its home country of Italy. And it wasn't found for like 28 months. And some 16th century Italian armor was also stolen back in like 1983, by Italians also. It seems like they just like want their stuff back. And it wasn't found until it turned up at an auction in 2021. So it's gone for nearly 40 years. And also in 1976, the diamond-studded sword used at the coronation of King Charles X in 1824 was stolen and has still never been recovered. And that's not even like all of the robberies. Like, there have been plenty of Louvre robberies. So it kind of makes you ask some questions about like, let's talk about museums, right? But anyway, the fun part of this for all of us has been the social media reactions, which have ranged from, posts about people's go-to heist fits, and also hot takes such as the fact that the Louvre heist didn't take place at dawn, but at the very reasonable hour of 9:30 a.m. shows that even
Very
French
French.
jewel thieves have a better work-life balance than us. And, that's 100% right. Okay, so Frances Mei, whose side are you on here, and why is it the jewel thieves?
Okay. I love this. I thought that this was very interesting news this week. Here's what appeals to me, and I actually think that there's a lesson for like all surgeons in it. So
bring it full circle for the audience. Go
yeah,
ahead.
we're not so different. I mean, in some other way, hopefully in some very meaningful ways we're different. But here's this interesting principle. Takes me back to being a baby, upcoming surgeon training. And I learned early on responding to like airway emergencies or, these ICU, emergent airway type pages. We were told don't run. We were told don't run because
run.
you do need
Never
to,
run.
just stay collected. But it's counterintuitive. When I was a med student and a code went off, I'd get into a light jog. Like, I wanted to learn. I wanted to be there. I wanted to help. Like, so.
And that's what TV teaches you you're supposed to do too. You're supposed to just take off in the hospital.
Exactly. But they taught us, they're like, just stay controlled, like walk briskly, stay totally in control. Cause I mean, that helps no one for the surgeon to show up out of breath, like, gagging, panting, like when they, you just end up discombobulated. And so there really is an art, I think, to that, like staying cool in an emergency. And watching the getaway video in this thievery situation.
It was thievery, heavy thievery.
Yeah, we'll call it. Yeah. So thievery. What's interesting is it was an electric ladder. So they're in, it wasn't a thing that they climbed. It was like a little pod that they sat in. Well,
so
and
they had to very casually go up and down. Yes.
Tony, I'll send you the video. More. Yeah, you have to watch them come down because genuinely, like, I'm telling you, it's them escaping, and it's just going at the speed that it goes at, like 1 mile an hour. So it's going so slow, and they're staying so cool. Like, that's what a lot of people were saying on the video. Like, I mean, but you can't rush it, and they stay really cool. The pod hits the ground. They
Trust
just like
the process.
I mean, you know that the alarms were already going off because they started going off when people broke the glass, getting in and then broke the display cases. So it's just like, I mean, you know that it had been however many minutes since they broke the glass and they still stayed cool, stayed in the pod. I mean, again, right? Like
It's
some
got to be
people,
like a 45-second, just like slow descent,
yep.
just the longest 45 seconds of your life. But you trust the training. Is
Yeah,
that is that
right.
what I'm
Trust the
hearing? Is that
training.
the
That's
is that
yeah,
the is that the similarity there between jewel thieves and surgeons? Would we be good jewel? I think I would be pretty good.
agreed. I think of you as someone who can like pull off malarkey and such. And so it's only a small
Describe this
skip.
malarkey. Tell me about the malarkey I would be good at.
I mean, you're wearing a child's witch's hat right now.
That is
And
true.
you're like, tell me about it. What kind of malarkey could I get into?
No, I'm saying so I would be the guy. I could be a good yapper if you needed somebody on the inside just distracting people.
Yeah, would that be your strength? I feel like I would be a good getaway type person. I also, you know, I get social anxiety sometimes. I'd kind of like to be like the hacker in the truck if I could be the person who stays in the van. I mean, that sounds good
You
to
need a
me.
small space. I would love to be an actual thief. I think I'm really good at just like not getting flustered under
Yeah,
pressure and
lock
just
in.
like sticking with just locking in with my fellow masked thieves. Even though like I have a lot of like general personality when talking to friends and family, I've been told multiple times by my wife that I'm very bad when I have to like lie about stuff. Like if I have to just like on the spot make some stuff up, apparently I have very obvious tells that would the jig would be up, guys, like real quick, and the Louvre would just descend on us like a hornet's nest. It would be very sad, and I don't think we would get away if I was in the malarkey position.
Yeah. I mean, we're not there yet. I like working with you, but I'm not trying to go full Oceans 15 heist. Like I don't know you
We
like
haven't
that.
achieved
I
we
don't
haven't
know you
achieved
like
that
that.
level of trust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Understood. We'll see where we're at by episode 100. I think we're gonna have to
That's how
revisit this, guys.
that's how we celebrate. At episode 100, we do a heist.
Yeah, episode 100. No one will know we're coming, but we will just show up to the podcast with jewels of some sort, and then it is. You know what I was thinking about? In this age of social media and everyone just having a blast with the absurdity of this. Um, what if the actual thieves were on social media? Were one of the social media personalities like poking fun at it and like had the actual jewels like in the background but they like, everyone thought they were just joking around just like everybody else.
Yeah, I believe it 100%. I loved like I'm on various subreddits. Our jewelry comes across like my homepage a fair bit. And so like yeah, 12 hours later people were like, "New piece of jewelry I got from my mom for, like her birthday coming up. What does everyone think?"
Uh-huh.
Just amazing spoofs everywhere. They were like, "Do you think my wife will like this for our anniversary?"
Listen, plot twist of the century. If you guys, bonjour, you know what I'm saying? If you guys are on social media, do it. Get just fuck with the French police. Like they are so mad. They are so serious about this. And I think they're even more mad that everyone's kind of poking fun. So just go for it. History will remember you kindly. And that's what I have to say about that. Good luck, guys. We'll see you on the other side. So with that, we're gonna move it along to social rounds. Frances May, you wanna
Yeah.
intro the social rounds?
This is where we will become your life attendings because it's abundantly clear that many of you out there are in desperate need of guidance, and we have the kind of wisdom that only comes from running out of fucks.
Oh boy. And you know what? We're getting a little granular this week with the question of the week. Because it's residency interview season, right?
Spooky,
And
spooky, spooky.
that's about as spooky as it gets, guys. So plenty of other, outstanding voices from the Hippocratic Collective have been offering words of wisdom lately. I've been seeing it on IG, but I felt like it was time to chime in with that social round realness. So, for those not in the industry, residency training are the years that follow medical school, during which you learn the knowledge and skills specific to the type of doctor you want to be. So, it's that life era that Frances May and I complain about the most because it can be hyper terrible. But it's part of the journey. Everyone goes through it. And getting into residency is one of the most high stakes times in a doctor's life, because this is literally where you learn or are told whether or not you can actually be what you want to be when you grow up. So, interview season is stressful. I'm going to give you all some advice on how to make a good impression and figure out if the program is the right one. And we'll actually shake it up and give advice not just for students, but for residents who are meeting these students, and for the attendings who are doing the interviewing. I think y'all could use some advice too. So, let's start with the kids. Frances May, like, when you think about, what all your employees here at the HC been saying, very encouraging, lovely things. But what would you say that has not yet been said to these students as they prepare for interviews?
Yeah, I do think that I like the advice. I mean, I definitely like the life philosophy when people are like, be yourself, be authentic. Because, yeah, I mean, I absolutely do agree with that in life. Like, I'm not typically one out here to be like, put your light under a basket. But what's interesting is that I do think that for a lot of people and in a lot of situations, like, you're not going to win the game that way. You might not get the interview season outcome that you want. And so that goes, to me, it begs the question of like, you know, are there some other versions of you that would be more palatable to the program that still feel authentic?
Let me ask you this, because yeah, what you're talking about is just like, hey, some of our core personalities aren't necessarily conducive to, shining bright in an interview setting. How do you know that about yourself? Like, how do I know I'm a weirdo that's going to be, going to turn people off? Or how do I know that I come across as kind of a dick and I don't realize it? Or, like, how would you know that about yourself?
Yeah, that's true. I feel like I have, and even at the time, I probably had some evidence that I was a dick and I was just ignoring it, like willful ignorance. Like, I feel like hindsight's 2020, and in my 20s, I did not have much self-awareness, and I think to my own detriment, like personally and professionally. So I guess I don't have the answer for until you're ready to hear it. People don't want to hear about themselves that they're a dick. They don't want to learn that. I do think though that in terms of like, hey, how warm do you come off? Like, okay, let me just back up, because I think that we did veer into just more purely philosophical, and that, some of those core things, like how far are you willing to go to meet yourself? I can't solve that for you,
Let's get
in
practical.
5 minutes
Let's
today.
get down into the dirt with them right now.
Very practical. Like, again, if you're just trying to, like how doctors tackle all things in their life, if you want to study and you want to learn something or nail something and then go out and perform and do well, things like charisma can be learned. So
You think charisma can be learned?
I read The Charisma Myth right before my interview season. The Charisma Myth, and, power, presence, warmth. And Tony, I'm just saying, you're looking at me with, you're giving me bug eyes because you're like, oh, people have rizzing or they don't. And I'm just telling you,
Rizzing.
whatever amount of riz you think I have now, which, it's not zero. I learned it the old fashioned way. I did not come out of the womb like this. I learned charisma from textbooks as God intended for doctors. Like, I literally had to do it that way. And then Jack, from Jack at work at the HC, I love her advice, which is that she really tells everyone to record themselves talking for a minute. Like, do your cold open for interviews, do it on video. Until I got on TikTok a couple months ago, I had never seen myself on video. And yes, it sucked. I did not enjoy like getting over that hump, but it actually did pay dividends in terms of how I come off in first impressions and interviews and all of these things. So if I was a medical student today, I would, and they're digital natives. They might be like, we've all been on video this whole time. Like, your grandma. So maybe, but I'm saying practicing and playing back the tapes that way, I think super helpful. Reading books like The Charisma Myth. I mean, Tony seems like he's going to argue with me on this and say, you're stuck with whatever little to no charisma you have, but I think I'm proof of the opposite.
Okay. I won't, well, I will kind of argue with you on this. Okay, so I think that it's great that books exist to teach us stuff. I mean, that's what books should be for. They can teach you, how to be whoever you want to be, even though that's not who you are, I guess. So you can learn charisma to demonstrate it to folks for an interview. I think the idea of recording yourself is great. I think maybe the idea of if you have like a good friend who like gives you shit and will like tell you real stuff, like maybe you have like you sit them down and be like, okay, let's talk about things people notice about me that they don't tell me to my face. Like let's have that real conversation. Like what is off-putting when people meet me that you've noticed and no one ever tells me, because like you got to know that stuff, because it's really hard to see it in yourself. Even if you were to record yourself, like most people I think would record themselves and just be like, ugh, like,
Yeah.
like I sound like that, I look like that, like, all that sort of stuff. But I don't think you're the best critic of yourself. You need someone else to critique you. So that's all said, you can do all those things to achieve the agreed upon, state of charisma and warmth and enthusiasm, right? But I'd caution you not to go too far, because let's say you do all that stuff and you get the job, then you have to show up. And if you show up as someone that wasn't in the interview, then yeah, you got the job, but they might have a little buyer's remorse. And they might make your life a little rougher, because maybe you don't fit that program. Maybe the charisma you put on display is what they're looking for, and when you get there, it's not there, and you're not part of the club. So how do you deal with that being the possible consequence? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is a conundrum. It's a conundrum
Mhm.
because if you go too far the other way, you're not going to have a program to feel buyer's remorse about you. And obviously, it's just tough. I definitely shout out to the people who are about to go through it this year, because it is a tough situation to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if we helped anybody here. Did we? I think you did.
No, I did.
People,
I'm telling you,
I think
like,
you did.
learn charisma. I'm just saying, like,
yeah, learn charisma, guys. Read a book and get better at sounding like a real boy.
Treat it like the coagulation cascade. I'm just saying, like, I was so
Not
weird. I did not get socialized correctly, and I still feel like I'm free to be my weird self, but I genuinely feel like I learned discrete things that made me 15% less immediately off-putting to others. And that has made my life slightly more friction-free. And like, I recommend that truly to any medical student.
Yes. Okay. So along those lines, let's talk about the residents, because residents are always like around during interview day. We're supposed to be around to kind of give you like a real taste of what day-to-day life is and that sort of thing. We're kind of like our thoughts and feelings about folks are not always taken into account by our bosses. So we're mostly a safe place. So if you're a resident, and it's interview day, what advice would you give residents? Like for me, I would be thinking about, okay, how can we get residents to help the students?
I took a very honesty first approach that led to me not being allowed to like participate in interview days in later
Damn.
years. Like I mean, you've met me. So like I don't even have hard feelings about that. Like I'm like, yeah, I mean,
people would show up and you were like, hey, run.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, we very much like, I'd be like, this is my crying stairwell. Like we'd just be like giving tours of the hospital. Like,
okay, yeah, you were not part of the sales team.
I wasn't selling it. But in all seriousness, I do just think that, like, I think that there's a lot of value in, and I personally believe in, you don't have to be as vocal as me, right? Because I really was like, just like mouthing stuff
Get
behind
out.
the backs. Yeah, like
Get out.
legitimately. And so you don't have to be so overt, but I do think that, like, it is a weird song and dance to me. I don't agree with it. The way that people will be like miserable every day of residency, and then they'll complain amongst themselves. And if you could like bug the resident office, you'd maybe hear what's really going on. And then they like just pretend to be a fake happy family on interview day. I find that pretty deceitful. Like you're selling a false bill of goods.
Yeah. I mean, residents you're under no obligation to do the dance. Um, you can go the route of just like being like, hey, there's the real situation, though I know you'll feel pressure not to do that. Oftentimes people are kind of all in a big, well, for us, we're all kind of in one room. It's where the interviewees are sitting around waiting for their next interview or what have you. So it's hard to like talk your shit, there. And you don't want to like scare people so much, but I think it's worth it for me, like it was always worth it to kind of uh actively kind of reach out to or chat pointedly with the underrepresented folks who would come through. Whether they were black, whether they were, women, whether like whoever like seems like, oh, you would be a marginalized population in this program. And so I want to chat with you, not to be like, oh, hey, like, what do you think about being a woman in medicine, but just to kind of let you, as tactfully as I could, get a sense of what my experience has been, or what what your experience might be, kind of being an underrepresented, person like in ENT, all our programs are small. And so that's what I would always try to do, and kind of give some honesty in that direction, which, may be specific to my program, may be, generalizable to other programs. And it's just stuff people haven't thought to, bring up with them. But I always thought that was important.
Yeah, I think that point cannot be overstated. I really like that. I respect you a little bit more. I'm sitting here listening to you. I'm like, you know what? I
I'm
might do
ticking up in the standings, just like bit by bit, guys. We'll be robbing banks in 3 months flat together. It's gonna be great.
that's what I'm saying. I'm sitting here and you're giving this like very sound advice. I was like, I would do a heist with this man.
Look
All
at
right,
that!
okay.
Look at that, guys. It's the power of the podcast.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And again, like, you might be listening and like if a resident, I do believe, especially in medicine, that there are extremely reasonable residencies out there. Like I'm not an all residencies type of person. I don't hear a ton amazing about surgery residencies as a group, but just in terms of, I think that a lot of us, like, and a lot of the people on the middle path and people who want to be real but also acknowledge, like, they can come to these interview days with this middle path approach, which is residency like Candyland every day? No, we work hard, but are people respectful? Do we have a good, we have a good hard working group? People, we get on and we do our work and we do go home at the end of the day. Like, I'm just saying that would be very attractive to me. Like if that was the truth and that was something believable that the residents were putting out, then I would be picking that up. I think that's probably like the dream program. What's funny too is that it kind of is a red flag when people go too far the other way, right? And everyone's got like an uncanny smile and people are like, we're a family in this residency. This one tweet stuck with me from a few years ago, which is like, if you are at a job interview and they tell you that everyone who works there is family, you are about to have some human rights abuses perpetrated against you.
Get out. These are your colleagues, guys. You spend a lot of time with them, but they're your colleagues. They're your competition. They are not your family. Don't get that twisted. Just like Frances Mei just said, anybody who tells you that shit, just file that away under, maybe I have to think twice. Should this be, should that rank list time come around? Um, okay, now what advice would we give to attendings? And this is when I thought about this, I was like, all right, there's a lot of attending behavior that historically and currently I just think is bullshit during like these interviews, like dumbass types of questions that they'll do just to make you uncomfortable, or like like all sorts of shit like that I can't even believe still goes down, but I know does. And so, what would if you could choose one thing to say, hey, attendings, do this or do not do this during these interviews, what would you say?
I mean, I you're gonna think that this is so simple, but I would just say the same thing that I am saying to attendings every day, which is just like, don't be a jerk. Like, I think don't be mean, because actually, to your point, what I think is interesting is that, when I hear of like the old Google Meta hiring processes, and when I hear of other really highly competitive jobs for bright people, some of the thinking questions, how many golf balls will fit in a 747? I mean, like questions like that. I'm just saying, I don't view those. Sure, are they annoying? Yeah, I mean, they're annoying, but I even understand these like share your thought process type questions. And if you're a person who cannot share your thought process thinking through the answer to a question, then residencies, you should probably rethink the whole thing. Maybe throw out residency altogether. So like even those tough questions or like brain teaser-esque questions, I, I feel like, to me, what stands out is that the interviewee has a very different experience if it's being done and administered by a complete asshole, or if it's just being done in a way that's like genial.
Yeah. Like, it's okay. It doesn't have to be a trick that you're pulling. Like, you can say, I want to ask you this question just to like see how you think through,
Yeah. Yeah,
through
exactly.
weird scenarios.
Exactly. And
You
act
can
normal
preface
about
that
it.
and then act normal. Don't
Yeah,
act
act
like a
normal.
freak show.
But that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But like leaning in and being like, hey, come closer. How many tennis balls do you think fit in a bus? And then you've scared the interviewee, and then you're like, if you get this wrong, you'll never match here. And they're like, what was that? And you're like, yeah. And it's crazy. Like, just
Yeah.
seriously, like, or again, like I've shared some of the stories like on my interview trail where if they didn't like my answer, like, I mean, I got laughed at in my face multiple times on the interview trail. And again, like, I'm not stupid. That feels really mean. I don't, I think that makes an already like kind of stressful experience, which is residency interviews, really unpleasant and scarier.
Yeah. I think, yeah, they're just it doesn't have to be a black box, this experience for the interviewees, right? And if you're an attending and you're doing these interviews, just don't be a dick about it. And I also think, like, having been in these conversations after the interviewees go home and we're like, figuring out who to rank high and all that stuff, like, forget the numbers, okay? Once the interviewees have come in, you've made the decision to interview them, then whatever their step score, whatever their grades, like, that shit doesn't matter anymore. What, like, they're like, how much they publish, it doesn't matter. They already got in the door. What you should be focused on after they've gotten into the door and you've interviewed just a small percentage of people is, who do you want to teach and who do you want to work with? The personality is so much more important than the paper trail. Okay. And it just drove me crazy that they would, like, when it came down to a couple people, like someone who, like, they like really liked, but maybe their score was a little lower or their score is higher and people were kind of iffy because they seemed kind of like a weirdo. They chose the weirdo because he had higher test scores. And then the weirdo was a fucking weirdo when they arrived and was impossible to work with. And so, you don't want to reap those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, understand, like, these people made it through the gate already. So just like, you should really focus on who can be taught and who you can work with and who is curious, and not on, their numbers.
Weirdos are going to be weird. And again, I mean, unless they take my advice and then, like me, they like whip themselves into shape.
Trick them.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. I really do think that in my past younger life, I was like barely passing as a person. I mean, even now on my TikTok and stuff, people are like, "This person's AI. They're not blinking enough," and like she kind of
This
has a
is
weird affect. I mean,
she
I'm just
has she
saying.
has she has told us this before, and honestly, since the first time you told me that, I've been watching all your videos, and I was like, I don't know if I'd say you were AI, but AI is getting really good. So I mean, I don't know, but no, I never thought that about you. I thought you were a real human.
But that's because you caught me in my post charisma days. I learned. I
Oh, you
trained.
did.
Yeah, that's what I'm
You learned to
saying.
show
Like
it
you
to us.
just yeah.
Left to your own devices, you would be just like a wax doll, like not giving anything.
But no, here's what's crazy, Tony. I'm serious. I need you to know. If we're
Okay.
gonna be heist partners, then I
Mhm.
can't hide things from you.
Yes,
It
it's very
wasn't
important.
that I was giving nothing. It was that I was giving a really like very strange, pretty singular, like aggressive Machiavellian energy that yeah, children and adults alike found it very
Children and
unsettling.
adults alike, yeah, but would be quite settling in a heist scenario. That's the kind of focus that you need. Like, I don't need you out there, making friends with, small children. I need you ready to like flip the switch on that really slow staircase and
And stay cool. Yeah,
just be
exactly.
cool.
And
Yeah.
I have that. I've been training this whole time towards that. Absolutely.
I think I mean, this is great. We're already, guys, in case you haven't noticed, we have in the course of like 45 minutes become heist partners, and I couldn't be happier. Happy Halloween. And with that, another successful and legendary Halloween episode of Social Rounds. Please take
I
us out, Francis May.
yeah, I gotta say, I appreciate everyone coming on the ride with us. I think that I was still drunk at the beginning of the recording, and I have now moved just fully into what is going to be a really brutal hangover. But a lot of
Guys, and there's no way you could tell, guys. Like, she has been operating at a level several several ticks beyond, I think, what she's feeling is pretty impressive.
yeah, I would say at a level that is not my usual level, but it is amazing because at my age, it becomes harder to rally every day.
And we feel you. We feel you on that.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, leave us a review, and check out our website, hippocratic-collective.com, for more shows and content like this. Thanks again for joining us. We will see you next week.
Bye bye. Woo.